name's Danny, I'm a photographer here at Vanity Studios. Today I'm going to be showing you 3 basic light setups using 2 lights, a polyboard and a white backdrop. Come on set, let's enjoy the shoot. So firstly guys, we're going to talk about the camera that we use here at the studio. I shoot with the 6D Mark II Canon camera. I use that with a 24 to 105mm lens and goes down to about f-stop 4. So it's almost fully open, but not quite. With that, the way we trigger our lights, we trigger it with a Pixapro trigger lighting system. The radio transmission makes it a lot easier to get around the studio, and also on the back of these triggers control the lights. So actually you can get loads of light. So if you want to have like a large surface area you need to cover, or if you want to reduce it a little bit, then you can control it and bring it down, and that's really good for like single subjects, models on their own, that sort of thing. You don't need it as bright and powerful. Also, in terms of the equipment that we use, we shoot for basic lighting with 2 lights. Both of those are Pixapro Storm 2 600 watt monoblocks. They're quite powerful and perfectly great for the space we use here. The main light, so our biggest light we use, that comes with a soft box, so it's a large attachment onto the front of the light. It basically comes with a diffuser. It's like a thin bit of material that just sort of softens the light if you need to. And we have that as our main source of light. Imagine like the sun coming down, nice and bright, and that's kind of a replicant of that. Counterbalance that with a secondary light which we use, which is, again, you can change the power of it, so depending on how powerful you want it, either on the backdrop or on the subject. If you're lighting onto the backdrop, today we'll be shooting on the white background. So it's a white color armor, it's about 2.5 meters width and 11 meters in length. That way we can sort of either use those lights to shine onto the backdrop or onto the subject, which I'll be showing you later. Also, just as a fill or something just to soften lighting or enhance lighting, we use a polystyrene board, a polyboard as we call it here. And it's basically 8 foot tall, so it's quite a large piece of polystyrene, and we use that just to bounce the lights around a little bit. So if we want a little bit extra lighting on the background, we can bring it across to the background. If we want it onto the actual person, the client, the subject, bring that nice and close towards that. Just angle the main light slightly away from the backdrop, just onto the subject, so it comes nicely across the face. Bring in the polyboard nice and close, and that way it just gives a really nice feel onto the skin without it being too shadowy. If you want to create shadows, be more dramatic, no problem, you can just flip around the polyboard and it has a black on the other side. So that really soaks in the light, creates shadows on the skin. And say the white side, when we flip it around, it's more commercial. Everything's nice for beauty and good for like family photography, that clear, nice, bright effect. So yeah, that's our 3 pieces of equipment that we use here at the studio with a white backdrop, which we'll head over to now. So with lighting technique number 1, we want to achieve nice, clean type of lighting. So we use 2 lights, 1 main light and then 1 backlight onto the background, and a polyboard just to bounce everything a little bit, make it nice and sort of light and airy and fresh. Yeah, the main light with technique number 1 is we have it on a 45-degree angle, nice and high, and it just comes down onto the subject, almost replication of the sun. So we have it on a quite high power, full, it's a half power, and the backlight just sort of brings out the subject towards the camera by having it shining onto the background. In terms of where we position the backlight is normally quite close to the background, maybe about 1 meter away, and we have it angling away from the model. We have that on a reduced power, so either half the power or a quarter of the power, and that way you don't get so much spillage with the light. We bring the polyboards in as well. We can bring nice and close to the subject, and that way it just fills everything, doesn't create any shadows, especially when we have the white side shining onto the skin, just give a nice soft feel. The subject themselves, they stand normally into the center. That way they're nicely in focus. They just create that bit of depth of field, and it gives a much better rounding of the light. So lighting setup number 2. The way we achieve that is basically we want to create this sort of commercial fashion modeling style type of lighting. It's very, very simple actually. So all you need to do is just bring the polyboard, the polystyrene board, nice and close towards the back of the backdrop. Bring the model themselves a little bit further, again, away from you and towards the background, and then have that main light just bring a little bit closer. Again, full power or half power, but no backlight. So literally it's a little bit softer, just gives you those really nice lifestyle type imagery. So it's nice and soft on the skin. So for lighting technique number 3, if you want to create something a bit more beauty or headshotty, anything like that, you can always bring the main light with a diffuser a little bit closer towards the model. Bring the actual model themselves a little bit closer towards you, and that way you can really create a nice depth of field. The background, if you're using a white background, will be a bit darker, so it'll be more of a grey tone. And then just bring the polyboard with the white side in, nice and close towards the subject. So the main light, which will be slightly at an angle towards the actual polyboard itself, going across the face. That white polyboard, just nice and close, will just bounce onto the skin, give you a really nice feel. Just to bring out a little bit more of the hair and detail, we normally have the backlights and the secondary light behind the subject a little bit, but facing slightly towards the subject. Reduce the power down to about a quarter stop, and that way it will be nice and soft, bring out the hairline, bring out the shoulders, really nice, clean, 3-dimensional imagery, which is really, really good for beauty, for fashion, just for nice richness and tones. I hope you found this video insightful and useful. This is just a basic way of how we set up the studio lighting, and it will really help your photography learning processes. So if you like the video, please press the like button, subscribe, and I'll catch up with you soon.